Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to see an interesting SQL interview question, repeated payments. The question is, count how many times a payment was repeated within 10 minutes for the same merchant ID, credit card ID and amount. We are given a transaction table which has 11 transactions, which has the column transaction ID, merchant ID, credit card ID, amount and transaction timestamp, and we are given 11 transactions. If you see the first two transactions, it has the same merchant ID, same credit card number, same amount, and the first transaction happened at 8 o'clock and the second transaction happened at 8:09. Both the transaction happened on the same day. So this is one repeated transaction. If you see the third and the fourth transactions, it has the same merchant ID, same credit card number, same amount. The first transaction happened at 9 o'clock and the second transaction happened at 9:11. These two transactions are not within 10 minutes, so this is not a repeated transaction. If you see the fifth and the sixth transactions, it has different merchant IDs, same credit card, same amount, and the transactions happened within 10 minutes. Since the merchant ID is different, this is not a repeated transaction. If you see the next two transactions, it has same merchant ID, same credit card, but the transaction amount is different. These two transactions happened within 10 minutes. So this is not a repeated transaction since the transaction amount is different. If you see the transaction 9, 10 and 11, it has same merchant ID, same credit card number, same amount, and all the three transactions happened within 10 minutes. So in these three records, there are two repeated transactions. Why there are two repeated transactions? Because the first transaction is a valid transaction and the second and the third is a repeated transaction. Similarly, if you see the first two records, there is only one repeated transaction. That is because the first transaction is a valid transaction and the second transaction is a repeated transaction. So in this example, the second transaction, the 10th transaction and the 11th transaction is a repeated transaction. So there are three repeated transactions. Hence we are returning the output as 3. I hope the question is clear. Now let's get into the implementation. Here is our transactions table which has 5 columns: transaction ID, merchant ID, credit card ID, amount and transaction timestamp. And here are the insert statements and here is the select statement for our transactions table. Let me run this table. Here is the data. From this table, I am going to select transaction ID, merchant ID, credit card ID, amount and transactions timestamp. This transaction timestamp, I am going to name it as current transaction. Using lag function, for each transaction, I am going to find the previous transaction. In order to do that, I am going to use lag function. In the lag function, I am going to use transaction timestamp over partition by. I am going to partition based on merchant ID, credit card ID and amount. Why I am partitioning based on these three columns? It is because only if merchant ID, credit card ID and the amount is same, then it is a repeated transaction. Partition by merchant ID, credit card and amount. And I am going to order based on transaction timestamp. Order by transaction timestamp in ascending order. So this will be my previous timestamp as previous transaction. Now let me run this query. For those records which has the same merchant ID, same credit card, same amount, we are populating the current transaction as well as the previous transaction. For the records which has merchant ID or credit card ID or amount, any of this is different. For those records, we are not finding the previous transaction. For those records, we have the previous transaction as null. I hope it makes sense. Now we are going to create this as a CTE with CTE as, let me select this table, select star from CTE. Let me run this query. We got the same result. We are going to select only the records which has the previous transaction, not null. Let me do that. Where previous transaction is not null. Let me run this. All the records with the null got removed. Now we need only the transactions which happened within the last 10 minutes. In order to do that, I'm going to use and timestamp difference in minutes. The start time is the previous transaction. Previous transaction, comma, current transaction should be less than or equal to 10. I hope it makes sense. This is the start time and this is the end time. We are calculating the difference in minutes. In order to calculate the difference, I am going to use timestamp diff function. Let me run this query. We got the desired 3 transactions which are the repeated transactions. We need only the count. So let me use count star. Now let me run the query. Here is the result. Let me alias it as repeated count. Now let me run this. Here is our result. I hope you like this video and I'm sure that you learned something new today. If you do like this video, please consider to subscribe and I will see you in yet another interesting SQL interview question. Thank you.